feel like I'm in one of those disaster flicks the day after, and I got a report of all the disaster. It's very easy to say, fire everybody, we suck, we're done, season's over. And in a lot of ways, it's serious business we're in. We are in, even if you're not wanting to get too down on a team, we're in a very, very, very bad position. But I like to do evaluations. I want to give you my evaluation. I didn't sleep well last night. I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, answering comments, watching film. Got up this morning and watched film. And some of the things that we saw needs context because there's certain units that weren't as bad. It wasn't a total team loss. And it was because they lost, but we've got to evaluate it fairly because if this heads in the trajectory that we think it is or the way it looks it is, we're going to get cleaned house, and we got to know what these players are and why. And as we go forward into the weeks, we want to understand. That's why I love the game, not simply they suck or whatever or they're the best, but why. And there's a lot of context, and it's going to help you feel better a little in certain areas. But there's a lot of areas it should make you far more concerned. So that's my deal today. I'm not going to go on too long. I'm not going to do my usual like, subscribe, and all that stuff if you can. But if you do, that'd be great. But I want to get into it because I'm just worn out, and I know you want to get straight to the chase. I'm going to cover McDaniel, Tua, O, Weaver, D, and then Mr. Mysterious, Teflon Boy, Greer. Because it's a package, and you've got to understand that the teams are far apart and they're not so far apart, but it was just a setting to exasperate things. But that started with a lot of guys, especially Greer at the top, and then McDaniel choices. So McDaniel, I was on with Jason Sarn, and he said he looked like he checked out midway through the game. And I don't know if he did or he didn't. It feels that way. He feels very disconnected. I've never liked that kind of coach. I said it when he got hired. I said he'll be good when it's rain. It was sunny, but when it's rainy, I don't like it. Some people didn't like me because we see McDaniel, we see ourselves. But this job is not like what you and I do. This is a pseudo-warrior sport, and he just doesn't have the junk in the trunk. He doesn't have the personality to juggle all these tasks and to be what he's expected to be. And he was out-coached big time. He just really has a very limited menu, and it is exasperated by the tools that he's got, but it's also just who he is. The DC of the Colts, they played over coverage a lot of the day. They would play over and force Tua to throw underneath. His average depth of target was like 5 points something, which is crazy. But he would flip it every now and then to go underneath so the receivers are in the back, and Tua was just, he got spooked. He couldn't process it because we didn't really see a lot. It was a brilliant game plan. He dialed up just enough blitzes at the timely point because what he saw in film, and it is very interesting, the Jags kind of brought that. And I'm like, I don't expect to see that come the regular season, but a lot of the tape that the DC got, he could study because we had our ones against their twos, and a lot of the stuff they did, he did, and it had very big potency. Now, some of that's not on McDaniel, but it is. He likes the Tana who can't block. He was beat bad on a couple of plays. I love Achane. Achane's a guy to respect, along with Patrick Paul. Patrick Paul had a stellar game, but Achane can't pass block, and a fumble came out because he missed the pass block. So he understood what we wanted to do. He understood clock, where he put guys in certain positions to force Tua to hold just for a second because he was blitzing on the back end. He just was one step ahead of McDaniel. It was leading the lamb to slaughter. And so McDaniel just doesn't have the moxie and the nature and the tactical savviness to do what he should do. He's got a good strategic mind, but come game time, I don't think he can process quickly. And he was taken to task, but he wanted the Julian Hills and the Tanas. He wanted the Keon Smith. Daniels being out, I said that was a big swing. And when you saw him play early on, he didn't look healthy, even on that sprained ankle. Now he's out for weeks. So you're going to get Keon Smith. Jackson's out for a while. And you're going to get Lamb or Borum. This is a recipe of disaster because the Colts offensive line is good, but when you tie it in with these great tight ends and Taylor, who had phenomenal pass blocks, it is a totally different animal, and we are so soft because of our tight ends. This offensive line might be able to produce some stuff, but not with the tight ends, not with the pass blocking that we got, and not with McDaniel, who just really doesn't have the toolkit. He's not our coach. He's got to go. I don't see any way he survives. Now, Tua had a terrible game. Yeah, I know, duh. But the concerning part is, I've talked for years, he needs more time to throw. He threw for 241 at 77% clean time, which is 0.4 seconds more than normal. Jones had 252. Now, there's something in there I'm going to get into, but he had plenty of time in certain moments, but not in other critical ones. But then pass rush mitigation, screens and play actions, it keeps receivers out of routes. It doesn't really attack. It was 29-30%, which was about 15% lower than it was last year. This is a great opportunity, and he was blitzed 44% of the time. Last year was 20. These are all opportunities, but because of what we got here, he couldn't take advantage of it, and he just doesn't process well with this system that we got. Darius DeHady, a cornerback, he talked about how we read the coverages. And they would put guys in zones just long enough. They understood the clock long enough to force Tua to hold the ball when the blitz was coming the other side. We've got too much of a quick timing-based offense. He gets nervous and doesn't process quickly. It wasn't all him. I still think that Hill should have bent it out more, but there was pressure in his face, and he had to side throw it. I think it was Brewer gave up that pressure. So if you're a Tua fan, there is mitigation. We don't have the tools to uplift this guy. Jones had a phenomenal day. We called him this, we called him that. I called him crazy eye. But you give him the right framework and a good OC, and it elevates his talents. Tua's talents are not elevated, but I am concerned that he just doesn't process well. Is that a product of McDaniel and the system? I don't know, but it wasn't good. He was off all day. He had some nice framework, but there was just a lot of stuff going on with him, and he's a concern with the injuries, with what we saw last night with the Bills. I mean, you're contending with the Allens, and even Fields looks so good, but look what they got built around them. The league is moved towards pass balance. I've been talking about it for longer than probably almost anybody. You need an offensive line, tight ends, run game, balance. And we are so far out of that because of the Greer, the McDaniel, whether it's because of Tua can't do anything or it's because that's all they can do. I don't know. But this offense is screwed. Tua will never be his best in this offense, and it's not set up for him to succeed. And he does not thrive in tight, tough environments. It's just the way it is. It could change. We've seen that. Remember what Jones was, knocked for, turning the ball and making dumb mistakes. But here, I don't see it this year. Now, the offense, Achan's a stud, but he can't pass block when you're tied in with these tight ends as offensive. But Paul is a darn good pick, darn good player. He's going to be here for a long time. He had a stellar game. And Achan did too, aside from that pass blocking. But investing in the Keon Smiths, Daniels going out, injury guy who got a pectoral issue, who also had an ankle issue, he's going to be out for a while, and I don't know what he'll be when he comes back. And the Jackson's got a toe injury, he's going to be out. But these guys we invested in on that right side with the Keon Smiths and the Lambs, this is not going to be pretty. There's a lot of tape for these DCs to take care of it, but Paul is a darn good player. Brew, mostly a darn good player. Savaiinaea, hits and misses. We got to see he's young. I still worry about his technique. Achan, stud. Waddle, though, I like Waddle a ton, but first hit, he was dinged. He came back, but all these small receivers, it's just a bad build, but there is some good parts to it. But they are the weakest link, which is sad because that's what McDaniel's strength's supposed to be, and that's what we've invested everything in, and it's the weakest part. Weaver. I think Weaver was out-coached a little bit But it's hard to say because, guys, this secondary is so bad. We were expecting to see this front seven to be so good. It is. It's pretty darn good. It's got a little flaws here or there. But understand, 3 turnovers, running into the kicker. They were on the field all day. Defenses that are fresh make plays. Tired defenses give up plays. But when you take a great front and a terrible secondary duck, even though he's out, he's supposed to be our number 1 guy. He was toasted all day. Jones toasted. Rasul Douglas toasted. Melifano didn't play well. You can't expect a very good front and a terrible secondary. And their offensive plan was so smart. They came out, they thought, everyone thought they were going to run. Then they started throwing, but they were vacating. They were throwing to vacated spots. They knew where the pressure was coming. And we had Phillips on Warren trying to cover him, which is terrible, and he was victimized a couple of times, but they knew what we're going to do, and they knew this secondary couldn't handle it. We've tried to blitz. It didn't really get in hot enough a couple of times. But with the front that they had, they ran high play action of 38%, so there's extra bodies there. They knew what they were doing because they understood Weaver was playing with half a deck of one hand tied behind his back. I don't think Weaver's a superstar. I think he's got a good personality. I think he's a good DC, but you can't give a DC this kind of secondary and then have them on the field all day. I do think they'll play better. I think they'll play better against the Patriots because the offensive line's not so good, and they're not as consistent. They got some good tight ends, though. But Weaver, I don't think, should get huge blame. I think he was a little bit outcoached, but mostly it was a talent differential. The defense, their front played pretty good. There's a lot of stops there. Yeah, they got gutted up in the middle, but guys like Butler, no good. And the secondary really hurt. There was a bunch of missed tackles. Melifano missed one, which is like extra 4 or 5 yards I didn't like. Grant, I like Grant, but he was moved out a little too much. Asking Phillips to cover. Chop can't run stop. So there is a little incongruency in this front. But if you had a great secondary or a good secondary, it would change a lot of the complexion of this. But they're all guys. Sela had a pretty darn good day. He was fighting. Jordan Phillips had a darn good day. Jalen Phillips had a good day pass rushing and run stopping. There was a bunch of stopped runs, but this secondary is terrible, terrible. And you take Duck out, who I think might want to move to safety. I'm not too hot on him as corner. It's going to be very tough for us against certain matchups. The Washingtons and the Bills and maybe even the Jets. You saw what the Jets did to the Steelers defense. I was totally impressed. Glenn's doing a great job over there. They know what they got. They built tough. They're going to pound you. It's going to be concerning. Teams like the Ravens, we're going to struggle big time. But there is good parts of this defense. It's not we were oversold the front. We were oversold the secondary. Greer is the guy who built this whole thing. He had unprecedented picks. He built this thing. He's the guy who, Tana, whether it's McDaniel or not, he's the guy who went on Farrah Brown and no good. He's the guy who went on Daniel, 20-something million over a couple of years, who's already injured, who was injured and is out, who's stuck with the Keon Smiths, the Jacksons, the Eichenbergs. This guy set this whole table up. He's the guy who's involved in picking McDaniel. I don't know how many options they had, but Greer has built this thing. I've talked about it for a while. Pass balance, running inside, offensive line, tight ends, being physical, controlling the A and B gap on both sides of the ball. This is where the league's heading. Go look at how Ravens are playing. Washington, KC struggled because they just couldn't run the football. But the Chargers could. They have built, there's teams that have built to the sweet spot of the NFL cycle. Greer built a road less traveled to fun ball and pass-happy era. But the road less traveled, while it makes all the difference for some, most are eaten by bears and pooped out. And Greer is the guy who orchestrated all of this, and he has been pooped out. He's got to go. He's the major cancer, whether you want to say Ross or not. We can't choose Ross. But this whole team, I think, has an opportunity not to win 4 games. For me, I had said 7 to 9. 10 is clearly off the table. You never know, but that's a lot. It's too much opium for me to smoke. I don't think we'll go on 4. If we go on 4, it's like he's fired. But right now, we're not going to beat the Bills. Jets going to be real tough. We've got to beat these Pats. But even if we go 1-3, I might have overestimated with the 7 wins. It could go to 6. I don't see 4. There's teams like the Panthers who are really struggling. There's teams like, I don't know who else. There's other teams out there I think we could beat. But the Chargers are going to be so tough. But I don't see, to get below 6 would be disastrous. Got to see what more injuries happen. I'm trying to remain somewhat hopeful. But that's the deal, guys. It's a bad team. But why? And leadership and framework has set us in this position. A lot of people sold you hopium, which is not true. So I'll get the all 22 film out to you tomorrow, what I just spoke of, so you can see the context and see the defense or the front more clearly and understand some of the stuff I was talking about. And then I'll do up close, no BS on a player. If you want to put in the comments somebody you want me to do, I'll do that. I might do Paul to be happy because he did a good job for us, a real good job. I'm going to try to stay away from the ugliness because that's what it's about. But that's a deal. Anyway, check me out tonight on the Rainy Day Podcast. Curtis saying, be well, go Fins. Curtis out. Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.